Britney Spears. So, Wednesday evening going into Thursday morning, TMZ reported that police were called to the Chateau Marmont Hotel, and it was reported that a woman who looked like Britney Spears was yelling at guests, was yelling at staff, and causing a commotion in the lobby. So by the time police got there, she was already up in her room. Everything was quiet, so they just left. A few hours later, I think around 12:30 a.m., something like that. But a few hours later, they were called back, and it was reported multiple calls came in. By the way, it wasn't just one; it was several people in several different rooms called, and they were worried that a woman was having a mental breakdown. They said the woman was yelling repeatedly in the hallway, and it sounded as if this person was suffering a mental health issue. Paramedics arrived. They did say that she had an injury, but obviously not a significant enough injury to be taken away from with paramedics. And apparently she was having a fight with her boyfriend at the time, who I believe used to be her maid, and he does have a criminal history. Britney Spears and her boyfriend both ended up leaving the hotel separately. Britney left with her bodyguards. I'm not sure how he left, and paramedics left. And there are photos of her leaving the Chateau Marmont. So there are photos of this. It looks very disheveled. Her hair is messed up. She appears as though she was crying. Didn't look like she had a shirt on. She was barefoot. It looked like she might be in her underwear or little boxer shorts. And she had a blanket around her and was holding a pillow covering her chest. So it looked pretty intense. Now, I am coming from the perspective of a very big, long-time fan of Britney Spears. I still don't think there is anyone like her. And I do agree that there were probably a lot of really bad people in her conservatorship. Maybe it was too restrictive. I think they made a mistake too by not being really transparent about everything. So understand several things can be true at once. And there's nothing wrong with having a mental illness. I think it is clear that there is something mentally going on with Britney. And honestly, I don't see how she couldn't be affected. And a lot of people, too, they might just have a predisposition for mental illness, and then stress can trigger it. And with women, this matches up with her age when things started going south a little bit. With women, onset for some of these might be mid to late 20s. Back in 2016, around the time when her Glory album came out, she was looking the best that she had in years. She was sounding the best that she had in years. You could see the light come back in her eyes, and she had a great relationship with her niece. It looked like she was having a good relationship with her sons. Obviously, you don't know what's happening, but she appeared in public to be her healthiest that she had in years. And then a few years after that, that's when court happened. That's when things started to go south again. She canceled her residency. I think it is clear that Britney, in order to function in society, needs some type of assistance. Whether the people that were in charge of her or the framing of this conservatorship needed to be looked at and reevaluated, I don't know, but it's clear that she needs assistance. And that's nothing shameful. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can also admit she has not lived a normal life like you and I have, not at all. If you lived through 2007, 2008, you're seeing a lot of repetitive behavior. The only difference is she's not driving around as much as she was, but it almost seems like, or feels like, that sort of, she used to play this really provocative cat and mouse game with the paparazzi, where she would interact with them, and then she would hate them, and she would love them, she would hate them. And I see almost like that behavior has shifted to her Instagram, and she's provocative on Instagram. Also, being around people that she probably shouldn't be around, that was a really big thing too. I used to work in psychiatric hospitals, and here's the thing about mental illness. Nobody wants to be in a hospital. No one wants to be there. Unfortunately, some people are there out of necessity, where maybe they've committed a crime, maybe they've hurt themselves, maybe they're hurting someone else, or they're about to hurt themselves or somewhere else. Mental health can be really scary. And when you're in that frame of mind, and by the way, there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be ashamed of. In the hospitals, they force you to take your medication. You have to take your medication. During this time, 2007, 2008, when Britney Spears, when her behavior was very erratic, a lot of people thought that she was not going to be around much longer. That's how scary some of her behaviors and some of the things that she was doing were starting to become. When someone gets successfully discharged from a psychiatric hospital, if they were to come back to that hospital, means that they did something to get themselves admitted again. The number one reason people get readmitted to a psychiatric hospital is because they stop taking their medication. And if you look at Britney, to me, she appears as someone who's probably likely off of her medication. And some reports that I was hearing confirmed that she was not taking her medication. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to change your medication or reevaluate what you're taking, looking at the dosage, all kinds of stuff like that, but to just stop taking it cold turkey if you've been taking it for that long. If you were to have a severe mental illness, you probably want to do that with a doctor or admit yourself somewhere. And it is possible, these are all possibilities, we don't know anything. It is possible that her family honestly felt like they had the option. Either she's going to be in and out of a hospital, either she might really hurt herself, really hurt someone else, or we can keep her out of the hospital and put her under a conservatorship where she is required to take her medication. What is also a possibility, and there's things that she said in her original testimony that sort of line up with this theory. What's also possible is that back in the time where she canceled her residency and she was admitted to that hospital, it's possible that she started refusing her medication, so they sent her to the hospital or she didn't want to take it, and that is maybe what could have happened. And then when she got out of the conservatorship, she just stopped taking it altogether. And I think pretending like she's out there living her best life, I don't think that's the kindest or most loving thing to do. Sometimes when you love someone, obviously I don't know her, I don't love her, but you know what I'm saying. When you love someone, you have to look at them and be honest. And I hope she gets help. I hope that, I want to see her flourish. She still has 2 sons. She still has a lot of life to live, and I just want her to do well. The incident that happened, that happened at the Chateau Marmont that I started with. She attempted to say that that was false, that the first thing was there was a body double. The second thing she was saying, you guys, all that happened is that I sprained my ankle. I've sprained my ankle before, and no one needed to call in reinforcements because I was screaming that loud. It definitely hurts. It definitely sucks, but it wouldn't require paramedics to show up. So I do believe that something did happen at the Chateau Marmont, and I do believe that she's not at her best right now. I think that's really obvious.